She was talking about this diversion for the gun charge. She said diversion for the gun charge could be unconstitutional. And if that's unconstitutional, then it would call into question the entire deal would be unconstitutional. And she said if that happened, she would be forced to find a finding of fact. What does this all actually mean?
So the diversion for the gun is one issue, but it's also tying the two together, which is what they tried to do. They tried to tie the tax plea with the gun diversion agreement. And that looks like what's called a Rule A plea, whereas the two parties are trying to issue a Rule B plea, which would take matters out of her hands. And so, again, she sniffed out this rotten deal because it's a sweetheart deal, as we all know, that has serious questions about how independent the investigation is, and she wants more information before she accepts his guilty plea or not.
So what you're saying is the prosecution, in cahoots with basically the defendant, tried to cut a deal that took it out of the judge's hands.
That's what the rule would have allowed, yes. And she sniffed it out and demanded more information.
Well, good for her. I mean, that literally sums up what we're facing today with the judicial system that we have and a Biden presidency that we have. This is what we have to deal with. Thankfully, there are people that can sniff this stuff out. Lastly, Kyle Brosnan for the Heritage's brief. Do you get called in on this? Do you have to report on it? Do they ask you to weigh in?
So we have filed an amicus, which is called amicus brief, which is called a friend of the court brief, to make the judge aware of the fact that these 2,500 pages of documents exist, because it's not in the Justice Department's nor is it in Hunter Biden's attorney's interest to make the court aware of this blatant conflict of interest and lack of independence in the investigation.
Unbelievable. Is this the brief? And I'm so over on time. Is this the brief there was all the controversy over? They wanted pulled out of the docket with the testimony from certain people, and the Hunter Biden's attorneys called. They thought they were pretending to be the prosecution.
No, so that is a brief from the House Ways and Means Committee. We filed before them and actually included the transcripts of the two IRS whistleblowers with our filings. There's about over 800 pages of briefs of filings here. But no, that was not our brief.
Do you see the shenanigans I'm talking about here? The defense team allegedly pretends to be the prosecution to pull things out so it's not in the docket and it's not in the court file. I mean, it really, you can't make this stuff up as we go along. Thank God we have people like you guys, the Heritage Foundation, Kyle Brosnan, and I'm so grateful.